science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Evidence is evidence. It's public. Everybody can look at the evidence and assess it, and eventually, if there's enough evidence, come to the same conclusion.
For newcomers and old-timers alike, the Chloe Sanctuary hopes to give you insight into the health and happiness of your companion parrots. We hope to help you build happy homes using reliable and proven tools. The best homes are built on a rock-solid foundation. And the best foundation for a happy home is the bedrock of science. When we stand on the shoulders of giants, the scientists who have worked long and diligently to understand our companions, we can reach new heights of understanding. And understanding is the key to success. What does avian veterinary medicine have to tell us about our feathered friends? How can we prevent illness, see the signs of disease before it's too late, and care for our birds through ill health? What light does behavioral science shed on their nature, needs, and hopes? How can the tools of behavior shaping make our homes happier for us and our companions? How can we deal with biting, screaming, or other misbehavior? What is it like to live among parrots? Let them roam around about you and share a life with them. How much freedom do you give them? What happens if you form a bond of trust with them? Watch and see what understanding their true nature can do for you. Come with us on a journey as we do more than examine a parrot's world. We live in it. Make some popcorn and bring in a few wood blocks. Let everyone have something to chew and a comfortable place to perch. Cockatoo is a presentation of the Chloe Sanctuary for Parrots and Cockatoos, a nonprofit charity dedicated to the empowerment of captive parrots and public awareness.
Cockatoos with attitude. Cockatoo. I want to encourage everyone to become a patron and go out to patreon.com/Chloe Sanctuary. And you can give as little as $1 an episode, just $1 an episode to help us do this. It takes about 30 hours to do one video, and we would appreciate your help. And thank you so much to all of our patrons who are helping us now. You guys are wonderful.
Hi, and welcome to Cockatoo, Cockatoos with Attitude, episode 28, Till Death Do We Part, Mate Trauma, and Other Forms of Aggression. We've talked a little bit about aggression before, but we're going to delve a little deeper. Recently, Chloe and Snowball started showing some changes in behavior. These are the kind of changes that often happen in mating season. And fortunately now, with some of the changes in climate we've recently seen, what used to be from November until April is extended from October until beyond. So we're talking a long mating season here. Let me introduce the birds first. Chloe, who's sitting right up here, and Babaloo, sitting right there on that perch. This is Peaches, Lucky Girl, Cecil, Lorelei, Sugar, and where'd he go? Down hiding under the paper over there, nesting, is Salamander. So Chloe had a salpingo-hysterectomy. According to the records I have that were given to me by Free Flight in Del Mar, she had a hysterectomy in 2004. Now the way that's done, it used to be done. It's not normally done this way anymore, but it leaves the organs intact, but the egg-laying capacity is disrupted. So she was having a hard time just being in the world for a while. She was tearing up her feathers. She had a lot of psychological issues. She started sitting on the bottom of the cage, which usually indicates a bird that's sick and dying, but all of the tests came up fine. She was losing weight, and she was pining with Snowball. They were talking back and forth together. Come here, Bob. I don't want you going over there because I know your little mind, and it's very good at getting into things. Yes, it is. So I had to make a hard decision. Not only did she go on haloperidol for the feather destructive behavior, she also had this desire to be with Snowball, and I couldn't logically see a reason not to do it since they can't actually produce any babies. So just recently I started seeing some things, and now I've never experienced this, and when you haven't experienced something, just having read about it doesn't always bring it to the fore when a problem comes up. But when I was playing Frisbee with Snowball in the past, he would always make sure that I didn't throw the Frisbee too close to the little nest box that they were using, which has some fake eggs in it. And, I'd walk into the room, and he would be down by the Frisbees looking at me. Chloe would be up in the box, and one of the things she would always do is leave the box and go sit somewhere way away from everything while we were playing. Well, I noticed a slight change, and it didn't click, but I noticed it. That often he would actually take the Frisbee and throw it in the box. And then he would get down in the box with Chloe, then he'd throw the Frisbee back out, and then he'd toss it to me. Well, normally the male will be quite protective of the female, and a Frisbee in the nest box didn't make sense. That was one thing that should have triggered some kind of a flag in my brain, but at the time it didn't. I thought it was odd, but it didn't trigger that flag in my brain. So then I noticed, frequently she would be out of the box. Normally she would come out of that box and she would go over and get food and water, and Snowball would go and sit on the fake eggs in the box. Well, in the last few weeks I noticed that sometimes she'd be out of the box, not going for food, and just looking over at it, and Snowball would be playing there with the Frisbee in the box. That again isn't normal. He should have been sitting on those eggs. And hi, Sal. Do you want to come up? Hi, Sal. Come on up. Hi, boy. Hi, Salamander. Yeah, you tell everybody. Hello. You big silly. You're just a big silly bird. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So, if you think about it, that's not protecting the nest, and that's not protecting the mate. Then one day, just about a week ago, I heard her crying. Hello, sweetheart. Yeah, I know. I heard Chloe crying, and so I went in there, and she was on the floor, upside down, and Snowball was on the cage up on top, and she was just like on her back and crying, and she had just gone to the vet, and her vitals were, there were a few minor things that we took care of with some antibiotics, but and her weight had been dropping a little bit too. This is another thing that was going on. So he wasn't doing anything to her. He was looking at her, and she was on the ground. And I went down and picked her up and and petted her and put her back over in the nest. And then just a couple of days ago, I hear her crying. I go in there, and he's got her in a corner, and some of her coverts are off. He's pulled a few of her feathers, and she's just backed into the corner. Well, when I saw that, then it all clicked. Mate trauma is common among cockatoos, and especially among white cockatoos. And normally what happens is, and this only happens in captivity, From everything we know, it's strictly a captive thing. For example, in Australia, it's never been seen in the wild, and they have thousands and thousands of these white cockatoos, and the weather's fairly good, so there's actually biologists who are in there studying them, so it's never been seen there. So we don't know exactly why that is. It may be at some point the males may actually do that. They may actually start to get aggressive with the female, and the female just leaves. Plenty of room to go. Easy to get out, to change a mate if you had to. It's a rare thing as far as we've ever known, but it's not hard to do. I mean, you just leave. So I immediately separated them and went back and hit the books, especially the Manual of Parrot Behavior. Again, I want to stress that you should own this book. I know it's expensive. I realize $125 is a lot to pay for a book. But if you end up with a situation where you've made a mistake because you aren't informed, you could have a dead, your companion could be dead because you didn't know it. It's also important to have the Basava Manual for Citizen Birds and possibly Clinical Avian Medicine, so you can also look at the medical issues, as well as being able to look on the web and find actual articles by veterinarians, and I stress by veterinarians, that describe these kind of situations as well, because there's so much you need to know. And I don't know it all, so I'm constantly referring to other sources. Come here, Bob. I see what you're doing, boy. You're a sneak, but you aren't going to do it. Okay, why don't you guys preen? That's good, boys. So I separated them, and I went right to the Manual for Parrot Behavior, which has a whole section on mate trauma, and it all started clicking. He wasn't defending her, she would be out of the nest, and he would be over there playing in the nest, which is unusual. She was crying here and there. I'd go in, there was no problem, but she'd be out of the nest. And there was another thing, too. In some of the videos that we actually did, some of the last couple of videos that we did for Cockatoo, Chloe would fly up onto the railing over the closet door. And there's a little curtain rod we have there, and a little scene from a French restaurant against the wall. And she would fly up there, and he would fly up next to her, and she would fly back down. Now, that should have flagged something. When a mated pair are separating like that, the female's flying away from the male, not staying close to them all the time, there's probably something going on. So, whereas a breeder, and as you all probably know by now or have figured out, I'm not fond of the idea of breeding these guys in captivity. There's a caveat there. If the breeders would actually do what science has led us to believe, if they would actually let them be raised in a large aviary, the parents would raise the babies, if they would handle the babies for 20 minutes a day, human handling, that would solve a lot of the issues, and I'd be much more likely to accept the idea of breeders. Also, if there was licensing like there is with raptors, to be a falconer, you have to have a license, and you have to understand the biology and the psychology of the birds, and also know how to train them. If you can't do those things, you're not going to get a falconer's license. So I think you should have the same kind of license to work with these guys. And after all, they are wild animals. They may be tame, but they're wild. So when I'm not sure of what's going on, I will hit the books pretty hard. And some breeders will actually, what they'll do is they'll take the beak. Can I see your beak? There he goes. You can't play with my beak. They'll trim the male's beak down so that it's rounded at the end. And as long as they have that little ridge, that'd be nice. Come here, Cecil. Bob is defending this. This is a kind of mate territoriality. Come on, sweetheart. It's all right.
If you are enjoying our videos, we hope that you can find it in your heart to support our work. It costs between $25,000 to $30,000 a year to care for our flock of heartbroken and abused birds. Most of our birds came with feather destructive disorder. Even a basic exam with blood work costs $300. Medical emergencies cost us thousands a year. We are a non-profit, and donations are tax-deductible to the full extent of the law. We need your support. Birds deserve a happy and healthy life. Become our patron at www.patreon.com/Chloe Sanctuary to support us on a per-video basis, or donate at our webpage today.
I'm not trying to hurt you. Bob's going to get you if I don't get you out of there. Yeah. This is a kind of aggression where he grabbed my hand, and he had a pretty good grip on it. Didn't bust the skin or anything, but he grabbed my hand because he was protecting an area that he was in. He was being territorial. But that happens. That's Bob's territory, so I didn't want them to get into a conflict. So I just, took my chances and just tried to move him slowly and, hope he didn't bite too hard. Right, Cecil? So there's two sections in the manual for parrot behavior that cover this. There's a section on mate trauma, and there's a section on aggression. And you should read both of those to understand what can happen, because not only could this kind of mate aggression occur between Chloe and Snowball, it also could occur between your male bird and you. If you were to get your male bonded to you, then this mate territoriality could develop, where the bird would defend you, which could mean that somebody comes in to give you a big old hug, and because they haven't seen you in a long time, and your bird turns around and bites you. This kind of displaced aggression is common. In the wild, it's often just letting the mate know that there's a problem and let's get out of here. So when you're biting feathers, it doesn't tend to hurt things too much. But they can also, bite the person who's your friend as well. And it may look like they're biting out of the blue, but they're actually defending a mate. So there's a reason you don't want to be mated to your bird. And if you get into the situation, it's often possible. It does happen that in this kind of mate aggression. Oh, Chloe, not over there. Come on off there, Chloe. Come on. No. Excuse me. You have to get off that. Come here. Come on. Off of it. That's not a perch. Back over here. Oh, Chloe, back over there. Ouch! That hurt. Not supposed to crush my little finger. What's the matter? That was painful. Is it because I have hair on me? This particular behavior is probably due to the fact that I'm holding Salamander. I'm guessing that that's the reason that he's getting so aggressive. But, so he's defending me, even though we're not mated. Oh, you agree with that? You do? So what I'm doing now is I'm going to let him stay in Bob's area, and we'll see what happens there. And that's probably going to cause a little bit of a problem. Don't be chewing on me down there, silly. Okay. So if you have a male that considers you its mate, and if it does what we only find in captivity, if it begins to attack its mate, that's not going to be fun. And they will chase you. Just as they do the actual, as Snowball was actually chasing Chloe. And if you'll note, Chloe's in here. And Snowball, where is Chloe? Chloe, where'd you go? Chloe, oh, there you are. Okay. She's up on the railing. So Snowball is not in the room right now, and the rationale for that is that that could be dangerous for Chloe, especially if I'm not paying attention. So at this point, they are permanently separated, which is your best bet if you see this situation.
It is ignorance of Bob's nature that turned Babaloo into a living gargoyle. Bob's would-be parents made a hasty choice and found themselves in living hell, torn between guilt and frustration. I have seen the joy in Babaloo's eyes now that he has a new life with me as his companion. To see Babaloo love and trust again is worth the effort of a lifetime. But, once again, Bob is heading toward the pain of separation. My heart nearly broke the day I discovered that he was heading toward a cloacal prolapse, that his life will be cut short. To find love and acceptance and then have it stolen away from you by failing health is too much to bear. We can slow the progress of his failing health, but we can't stop it. He will need several surgeries, and eventually, Babaloo will die. We want to give him the best possible life until that day. His surgeries will become progressively more expensive over time. Won't you please lend Babaloo a hand and donate to his medical fund today? Our donation button is on our webpage at www.chloesanctuary.org. Just be sure to say, "For Bob," in the notes when you donate.
So it's important that you do not pet your bird anywhere except the head. There are exceptions. Peaches because she can't preen herself. Sugar because it took so long to save her life. And she's a mutilator, so I had to spend a lot of time handling her. There are reasons where you would pet a bird other than on the head, but you have to have good concrete reasons. With Sugar, I had to do it to preserve her life because she was a mutilator, and putting collars on her, taking them off, having to deal with trying to clean her up after she bloodied herself time and time again. And with Bob, because he had been rejected the first 8 homes he went to in the first 11 years of his life. So I'm bonded to him, I'm bonded to Sugar, and I'm bonded to Peaches, and there's not a lot of choice there. The only male that I'm bonded to is Bob, and that's where the major danger lies, is that if he should start protecting me, then it could be a painful experience for others. I mean, I can deal with the pain when it happens, but others may not want to do that. All right, I'm going to show you a trick I don't want you guys to use very often. All right? You see how Cecil's getting a little aggressive, and it's funny that we're having this video to go over aggression again and mate trauma, and he's acting like this. If a bird is coming down to bite you, what you can do in an extreme situation where you know you're going to get bitten, if a bird's going for you, come here, Cecil. Come on, Cecil, come here. Come here. So he goes, if he's coming to bite me, what you do is you rotate your hand the same direction he's going. So if he's coming down to bite my thumb, if I rotate my hand this way, he'll back away. You saw him do it? Let's try that one more time, Cecil. Come here. Come here. Cecil? Hey. All right, that's it. Cecil, come here. Come on. Cecil has to go into timeout because he's just in a biting mode. Timeout for a bird is usually 2 minutes. Beyond that, you don't want to put them in a timeout. But the trick is, if they're going to bite you, and you saw me do it twice, you just rotate your arm in the same direction they're going. So their beak's coming down like this. You rotate your arm this way, and they will step back, and they will pull up. And it's considered positive punishment. Punishment because it's reducing behavior, and positive because you're adding something to make them do it. So that's like somebody who takes a newspaper to a dog. Again, that's not something I would do, but they take a newspaper to a dog because it just peed on the floor. That's adding something to reduce the behavior. So in this case, if you rotate your arm, you're taking away their balance, but you're adding a movement of your arm to reduce the behavior, and it's only punishment because it reduces it. Not the same way we use the word punishment in common talk, but that's the way it is in specialized fields. Okay, that's your 2 minutes. You want to come out, sweetheart? Are you ready to come out? Come on, sweetie. Come on. Oh, come on, boy. Come on. See, oh, there's my Cecil. Hi, Cecil. What you doing, Cecil? What a good boy. What a good bird. Hi, Cecil. He's still pretty hyped. What are you doing? How come you're, no, we don't want to bite. No. Hey, Cecil. Cecil, what's your problem? Come here. Cecil, no biting. Come here. No biting. I'm going to have to put you in that cage for your outside cage for a while if you keep it up. Okay? Is it just him? Is he bugging you? You've had him on my lap before. It's not a problem. So with Chloe and Snowball, the only thing I could do, the only thing I can do, is to separate them. Hello. Oh, hello, sweetie. Hello. What are you doing? Big boy. You big boy. They have like rubber pieces they can put on the male's beak and that kind of thing. But that's only really for breeders who are trying to make money off of birds. And or they can get 12 babies in a year from a mating pair. If they steal the babies away from them, they can only get 2 babies if they're going to actually let them breed normally. If you're talking about cockatoos, cockatoos usually lay 2 eggs. So what they'll do is they'll either put this rubber prosthetic on their beak, or they'll round out the sharp point on the beak, and then they'll keep the birds together only during mating, for short periods during mating season, and then separate them and put them back together. They'll keep playing that game. But if you have that happen, if you've made the mistake of having a male and female get mated together, and if there's any evidence that the male is becoming aggressive, you need to separate them, keep them separated, and if the situation is dire, if the male is being extremely aggressive, then your best bet is to take them out separately, or to rehome the male in a place that's only going to have that one bird. Because once the males become aggressive, they're probably not going to do well with another male or female around them, and you certainly don't want to endanger other birds. So, hello. 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 Now, if you notice, Cecil is starting to relax. He's getting over his little biting episode there, which is unusual. It's the video just before this, he did this too, which is, who knows, maybe it's just the environment of all the cameras up. There's a lot going on in the room that normally doesn't happen. Maybe it was the fact that Salamander came over and that he didn't want him on my lap. A lot of different factors can cause these kind of behaviors. Now, parrots in captivity will generally use aggression as a last resort. And they will either lunge or bite. You will see some posturing, as you did with Cecil earlier. He was posturing to bite. If you react to that, one of the ways you train them is by reacting to that. If you have a bird that acts like it's about to bite you, it may indeed bite you. That's possible, but sometimes they only have to actually show that kind of behavior, and people will back off. That's very similar to if you walked into, let's say, if you walked into a bank. Okay, I don't suggest you do this, but if you walked up to the counter to one of the clerks. If you walked up to the counter to one of the clerks and you said, "Look, give me all the money right now. Just give it up. Just hand over all the money you got in the bank," and they just did it, then after a while you'd get in the habit of walking into banks and telling them to just give you the money. If there was no consequence except what you wanted, which was the money. So with these guys, it's kind of similar. If they don't want you, let's say if they don't want you to move them from place to place, they don't want to go back to their cage, they're busy doing what they're doing, or they're protecting an item that they have in their beak or something they're playing with, and they turn and lunge at you and you back away, well, you've just told them that, hey, that's just like being in the bank. It's saying, give me the money now. So if you back away, then you're giving them what they want, which is the space they want for that object, the thing that they're playing with, or the place that they are, or they don't want to go back to their cage, or whatever it is. The second you give in, then you've reinforced that behavior. And after a while, some birds really learn this. Some birds become master manipulators. And Bob's a good example. I know I've told the story before, but it's good to let's do a brief recount of it here. There was a young lady who said she wasn't afraid of birds, and she understood them and that kind of thing. Well, Bob has a way of getting under your skin, and what he did was he got on her stomach. She's sitting in a chair, and he stared her down. That's all he did. He didn't bite her. Didn't even make a lunge. He just stared her down. Just kept his eyes right on her eyes. And after about, a minute of that, she said, could you just take him off me? And he learned this because he didn't get much time out of the cage when he was at the animal hospital where they were trying to find him a home. So in order to stay out, he learned to make lunging motions and to snap at people in order to be able to stay out of the cage longer. They'd come to clean the cage, they'd take him out, and then he'd do these behaviors in order to stay out longer. So he's learned that technique well. It doesn't work for him so well these days because I just don't react to it, and he doesn't bite me for those reasons. And the only time he'd really bite, I know, Sugar, you can come down here if you want. Come here, Shug. Come on, Shug. Well, come here. Well, come down here. Well, come here. Well, come on. Come here. I can't get up and get to you. I wish I could, but I'm kind of got features on my stomach. Makes it hard to do. It does, but you can come over here. Well, you can. Oh, well, I know, but you could. Uh-huh. Yeah, I know you're asking me to come over there, but I'm not in a good position for that, sweetie. Sugar is another one that can show aggression, and it's mate aggression. She's trying to defend me, so she'll fluff up, get all of her feathers out, and people will think, oh, she's coming over to say hi. No, she's coming over to bite you because you're too close to me. That's not a behavior I wanted, but there's times when you actually have to do things for these birds that put you in harm's way and other people in harm's way. So I just warn people that's not her friendly hi behavior. That's actually a mate behavior that you don't want to. You don't want to walk into. You okay down there? You all right? You guys fighting? This is fighting over Bob's territory right down here. Now, there's different types of biting, aggression, whatever you want to call it. There's fear biting. Fear biting is where a bird, being afraid, having nowhere to go inside of a cage, or having been abused by a human, will develop a defensive posture where it lunges or bites. One way to distinguish it is that generally in fear biting, they don't run after you and try to bite you. A bird that's running to get you and trying to bite you is probably doing that from a mate aggression, a mate territoriality. Could be because you're mated to the bird and things have gone wrong, or you're mated to the bird, you've been petting it improperly, that kind of thing. And someone else comes into the room. As I discussed before, there are a lot of reasons for it, but generally in fear biting, or fear lunging, you won't have a bird that's chasing you. When you're afraid of something, you tend to try to get away from it. You know, they're going to do the same thing we do in that case. They want a book. They want to get out of there. Another good reason, I mean, there's two ways to look at this, but it's a good reason not to clip your bird, because if they can fly away, they'll tend to be less aggressive. They're not as fearful if they know they can get away. Seen that in Lorelei, right, Lorelei? Right, Lorelei? She was scared by the hawk at the window that one time, and I hadn't recognized that, and I tried to put her in her cage because I had to leave. And then after that, when I would approach her, she would fly away. She didn't try to bite me, she would just fly away. And considering there's a large area with many large cages, wasn't easy to get her. And I did make the mistake, and this is something you can do if you have a bird that is acting out of fear, in this case not aggressive, but acting out of fear. It was calling her by her name. So for a while there, she didn't want to hear that. And I had to call her by something I've always said, only with affection, with an affectionate voice, which was, "Hi, baby girl." And I'd say, "Hi, baby girl," and she'd look at me like, "Oh," but I'd call her by her name, and she'd be doubtful of me. So they do associate those things. Don't you, Lorelei? Didn't you, baby girl? Didn't you? Now, she's not aggressive at all, but if she wants something, she'll display some aggression. For example, if I'm eating something, she likes to fly over to my shoulder. So, and she'll be walking through the house, and you hear this flap, 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 flap. The next thing you know, you go whack, it's on your shoulders, right? So she'll fly over to my shoulder, and if I'm eating something and she wants it, she'll sometimes like nip me on the side of the face to try to get me to turn my head. I'm assuming that's what she's trying to do, because normally if you nip, if you get nipped, you're going to turn to look at her, so she'll do that. I try not to react to those little things she does when she wants something. Right, baby? Or if she doesn't want, if I'm trying to put her down and she doesn't want to be put on a perch, she'll turn around and start biting me. She's not biting me hard. She's not really hurting me, but she is biting me. Not breaking the skin. That's her way of saying she doesn't want to go on the perch. I make a point of putting her on the perch. And then once she's on the perch, if she doesn't, it's obvious she doesn't want to be there, I'll pick her right back up. But I want her to realize that the biting, this aggressive biting and lunging, is not going to get what she wants. She's still going to go to the perch. So I'll put her on the perch, I'll wait 10, 20 seconds and pick her right back up and take off with her, because that's what she wants to do in most cases. This kind of fear can be because the birds were not socialized when they were young. It can be because they've had bad wing trims and they've done a lot of falling, so it made them nervous. Roman's a good example of that because of the fact that his wings, there's some of the feathers that are missing, and I don't know how that happened, but they won't come back in. He doesn't have a good sense of balance, so he was considered a biter before he came here. He really isn't, but he's never hurt anyone here. But if he starts to lose his balance, the beak opens, and he's kind of looking for something to get a hold of so that he doesn't fall. So that's one reason why they can have this. And then, of course, there's the the way they were treated before. That often has an effect. And so how do you treat this kind of fear aggression? Well, you have to desensitize them. So if it's fear of having your hand in the cage, then you're going to just bring over a treat, something they like. You always need to take whatever they like the best and take it out of their diet. This one likes papaya, don't you? Don't you like papaya? He likes walnut. You gotta have a walnut every day, don't you? Yes, I know they could have aflatoxins. Take away a walnut from this guy, though, and you're asking for psychological problems. So he's gonna have his walnut every day. But so for training purposes, we use papaya with him, and you like your papaya, don't you, boy? Don't you, boy? Yeah. So what you would do if he was afraid is you would put papaya through the bars into his cage, into a little cup, a nice little cup, something that just for treats. And so you would want a little cup just for treats. And you would put that in there, and then from the outside of the cage at first, and then eventually you would go have that cup close to the door so you could put it in there. And then you could move the cup further and further back in the cage so that he always got that treat and the hand would come in. So eventually he'd be happy. You're not going to mate with me. Someone's trying to mate with me. No, we're not going to have you mate with me. No, but you're a good boy. Yes, you are a good boy. You're one of the best boys in the world. Yes, you are. That's a good bird, but you're not going to mate with me. No, I'm not going to mate with me. Well, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But wrong species, you know? Yeah, there's laws against that kind of thing. Yeah. If the government really knew what that was all about, a lot of people would be in trouble. Yes, they would. They would call that pet-ophilia. Yes, they would. They would say that's pet-ophilia. Uh-huh. And that doesn't mean a bird named Ophelia. That's your pet. Right, Sal? Salamander? So you need to desensitize them. And one way is to just provide them a treat. If it's a specific person they're afraid of, then that would be the person who always gives them their treats. That would be the person who does all the fun things with the bird for a while until the situation is taken care of. And the other person would do all the things that aren't so much fun, such as the cleaning of the cage, the trimming of the nails, that kind of thing, would be done by the person who the bird prefers, if the bird wasn't afraid of them. One thing I reasoned out myself that I've since actually read. I know. What a good boy. What a good boy. One thing I reasoned out myself. Are you silly? I know. One way that this often happens, and I've since read this in the literature, I figured it out for myself. I wasn't sure, but it seemed logical, and after having read it in the literature, it's pretty obvious. Now, if you have a bird that's trying to come over to you, they don't have arms, so they'll often open their beak and try to set their beak on your arm. If you pull away, that's the beginning of the cycle of biting, because they lose their balance and they have to grab a hold of something, and especially if they manage to get a hold of your arm and you cry out, in their world, a loud sound is reinforcing. It's not a negative. So if someone goes, ow, then that's reinforcing the biting behavior. So that's one way it gets started. And just general fear by humans does it too. If you tend to be nervous around the bird, and hi baby, hello. If you tend to be nervous around birds and you're ducking and jiving all the time, then you're teaching them. See, if he approached me and I pulled away, then I would be teaching him that he could make me go away. So just being the kind of person who tends to be nervous around a bird will tend to make a bird more aggressive. Won't it, Seesaw? If you back off when a bird lunges at you, and I'm not saying you won't get bit if a bird's lunging. If a bird's been used to using that as a way to control you, then the bird has been using that as a way to control humans, then you might, indeed. But simply backing away every time a bird tries to get your attention can cause a type of aggression. We call this kind of aggression conditioned aggression. You're conditioning the bird to be aggressive. And yes, you're training the bird to be aggressive. So you want to avoid that kind of reaction to what they do.
Please excuse the upcoming audio quality. Cecil decided it was time to play the drums, or actually it was the cage door. The first 30 seconds or so of the upcoming video will be especially poor quality. After that, I have done what I could in Audacity to reduce most of the banging noise. Please forgive us for the audio quality.
So aggressive behavior, it can be conditioned. You can condition a bird to react more aggressively, whether it be mate aggression or territorial aggression or fear aggression. Your reaction to it. Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me, Sal? Hi, Sal. Your reaction to it could have a major effect in actually training the bird to have aggressive behaviors that you don't want. So, right, Sal? And Sal apparently agrees on that, don't you, Sal? Bob, I much prefer you destroying the perch to trying to eat the couch. So that's a good choice, kid. While this kind of aggression can happen in any species, it's more common in macaws and Amazons. And the Amazons I've seen and what I've studied, they tend to be much more mate aggressive and territorial. So if you get an Amazon mated to you, it's not just your buddy, right? Woo-hoo! 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 Yeah! Hello, sweetie. Hello. How are you? You want all of my attention? Is that what you want? Just all of it? Just every bit? Is that what you want? Aw, that's a sweet guy. That's my sweet guy. Yes, he's a good bird. This one's a good bird, but if you really want a wake-up call, just walk up backwards to him. he will bite you on the rear, won't you? And that's, I'm not sure what that behavior is. Somewhere in the territorial, I guess, but he just doesn't like, he just doesn't like people coming up and presenting their hind parts to him. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Oh, yeah. I can't even turn my neck very far, let alone around like that. No, I can't, salamander. Salamander. Salamander bird! Oh, hi, sugar. Hi, Shug. Hello. So, if you don't set up the borders or the boundary lines as to what's acceptable behavior and what's not, these guys are so intelligent. How intelligent are you? Very intelligent, Salamander says. So, yeah. So if you don't set up the boundaries, they will. These guys, no, we're not going to have, no, wrong species. No, I'm not a pestophile. I'm not a birdophile. No, I'm not. No, that's sexual behavior. We're not going to do that. But I love you. I do. I love you too. Yes, I know. No, we're not going to do that. No, we're not. No, we're not. I don't know if any of you noticed that this is mating type of behavior, but now he's starting to position himself. So I have to kind of get him further away. No. No. And maybe I'll get him into some other behavior altogether. Like, what's Bob doing over there? What's Bob doing? You see what Bob's doing? What? He says, what? You see what Bob's doing? What's Bob doing? Oh, you don't care what Bob's doing? No. So this is it. If you let a bird start to do mating behavior, and he's just starting, I'm just kind of trying to put a damp on it, and you think it's cute, and you think it's fun, what's going to happen is eventually you're going to have a bird that's going to start biting, or it's going to start screaming, or other negative behavior. But the aggression is real easy to bring up with a bird that's become mated to. Isn't that right? So what do you do if a bird starts to use lunging behavior with you or bite? What you want to do is get them to do a behavior that's positive. So let's say if Salamander just bit me, I would go, step up. Oh, good boy. Give him a treat. In this case, he likes to be talked to. You say, step up. Good boy. Yeah. That's one way to diffuse the mating behavior, but also with aggressive behavior. You want to reward the positive, so you don't want to physically harm them or frighten them or do anything like that, because that's not going to work. You want to instead find another behavior that you can reinforce. Step up. Oh, good boy. Step up. Oh, good boy. Oh, good boy. Okay. Yeah. And it can diffuse the sexual behavior. It can diffuse the sexual behavior and the aggressive behavior at the same time. So you always want to accentuate the positive. And that's the way you deal with this kind of aggression. So the next form of aggression is territorial aggression, and that's where a bird will defend its cage, its nest area, or its mate. So with territorial aggression, you're going to have a bird that's either going to lunge or bite or posture in such a way as to keep you from doing something, approaching an area or doing a particular behavior. And the best way to deal with territorial aggression is through training. If you teach them to step up and to step down, to target after your hand and you have treats in it, you teach them any training that you do. Veterinary behavior like spreading your wings. I've taught them all to spread their wings on the ass. Those kind of behaviors will tend to lessen any territorial aggression that you may have. But also because they're listening to you. They're listening to what you say. They're reacting to you in the training process. I've often had people say to me, well, I don't see the point in training. I don't see why I should train a bird. I'm just teaching it. But actually what you're doing is you're establishing a relationship between a teacher and student, and they listen to what you say. They like it too. So it gives you a good reason to do it. But when you're in a situation where they're defending a territory or a nest box, or they started digging in the corner and they're making a little nest, you come over and they lunge at you. If you have been training them, they're going to tend to listen to you. They're going to follow that pattern. They're going to expect the treat. They're going and it's going to diffuse the situation. So the best method to deal with territorial aggression is through training. Good flight, Chloe. Good flight. There you go, baby. There you go. One thing I read a long time ago, and you'll also find this in the Manual of Behavior, is the two-cage system. It's recommended in the Manual of Behavior. But you have two cages, and this is what I've been doing for a long time, even though I didn't read it in that book first. So they have their day cage, which they're in when they're not terrorizing the back room. Bob, come here. I'm not going to cheat the camera. So they have their day cages, and then they have their night cages they go into, smaller cages. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, it's safer for them if they have a night fright. They're not going to be falling a great distance and possibly getting their wing wedged in the bottom of the cage. But the other side of it is that they have a small space at night that they know they're going to. That's where they sleep. And then they have another space out there. This means that every day they get transported between two rooms. This has a calming effect. And many people have no sound angry. Many people have commented on how well behaved these birds are. And that's part of the method that I've used is to make sure that I followed these guidelines. So to thoroughly examine the different methods that you can use to deal with aggression, I really suggest that you buy the Manual of Parrot Behavior and study it in depth, because it covers everything from coming out of the egg till old age and they pass away as far as behavior. As in with the mate-related, we were talking about mate trauma and mate-related aggression. One thing that may help with mate-related aggression, as far as if you become mated to your bird and they become aggressive, Lupron injections or a Lupron implant may help. But you want to try to use that as a last resort, and you use it during the breeding season. Yes, I know. To reduce you're just being a pain over there, aren't you? To reduce the biological urge to mate, and that may help. So sadly, Chloe and Snowball are no longer a number. We have to keep them separate. And Chloe's starting to come out of it. She can still hear him. He's still here. They still talk to each other. One thing you'll notice when you have a mated pair, the female will tend to become they don't pay much attention to anything else except their mate. The males will still mostly be interested in the world around them, but the females aren't. So with Chloe, I'm working hard to recondition her. If you noticed, she's actually come down to be with us more today. And although she doesn't look at me there, yes, you looked at me. She doesn't look at me too often. She's starting to pay more attention now. Thank you so much for watching. This is Cockatoo 28. Till death do us part. All about mate trauma and aggression, and delving a little deeper. Again, I highly suggest you get the book I've been recommending, and there's a ton of stuff in there. You can look up almost any issue you're having behavior. So, thanks again for watching. You want to say goodbye, Peaches, or do you all have you say goodbye? You want to say goodbye to the people? Say goodbye. You want to say goodbye? Yeah, goodbye.
We welcome your feedback on our videos. We look forward to your insights, tips, questions, stories, and pictures. You can email us at cockatoo@chloesanctuary.org, reach us on Twitter @Chloe Sanctuary, and join with us on our Facebook Chloe Sanctuary page.
Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.